Are we on?
I need a second to update the PowerPoint, please.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Kurt.
Can someone make me a co-host, please? Thank you.
All right.
Oh, recording is pulled.
Can I go yet? No, yeah.
I'm calling the applicant, so hopefully they'll be able to log in by phone.
Hello?
Oh, we have somebody. Hi, we hear Mr. Kosciarli.
Yes, Mr. Cacciasarli here. Should I be logging into the Zoom meeting?
You're in it, actually, unless you want to go on to Zoom itself. You're in it. You want to,
This is by telephone. So the question was whichever you prefer.
Okay, I can remain by telephone. That's okay.
Okay, so let me call the case. The case that we're on live, right?
yes.
Okay. New case, item number 19-378-45BZ, 11660 Supton Boulevard, Queens. Mr. Colciari? Brian.
I'm here.
Colciari? Okay, so you have anyone else with you, or you're just the only person?
I'm the only person.
Okay, I have to swear you in. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Okay, please proceed. State your name and proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Cacciasarli. I am the applicant of the Cacciasarli Law Firm on this. Please note that we had submitted a revised SFC application with my contact information, as well as an owner's affidavit authorizing me to represent them on this matter. So the applicant is no longer the David Off Hutcher Citroen firm. It's the Cacciasarli Law Firm.
So it's Cacciasarli Law Firm is the name of the, okay. But you submitted a new ownership authorization letter?
We did.
Okay. I'm not sure if we saw it. Can our project manager check that we have that, please?
I think I saw that, right? Because I emailed you the agenda, right, Ryan?
You did.
Oh, okay. All right. He had submitted a
And
form
I
and stuff.
registered online.
Yeah, okay. So I had emailed him. I knew he was involved in this case. I'm sorry. I thought it was David.
I just want to make sure we have the official form from the owner's authorization form for new representation, okay?
Yeah.
So Daryl, can you just check that we have that? Thanks. That's your case, right? Okay. All right. Tony?
Yes. I already
wanna-
swore him in.
Oh, you did? Okay, so Mr. Kochasarli, you want to start? And Daryl, please let me know when you find that thing.
Madam Chair, I apologize.
Can you hear
were
us?
cutting in and out.
Yeah.
Am I permitted to proceed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, good afternoon. The first concern was under which provision of the zoning resolution we're bringing this application, if I understood it correctly. Our impression from reviewing the BSA resolutions is that the BSA has jurisdiction over the gasoline service station and the accessory lubritorium use. Now we're looking to change that use group 16 accessory use to a convenience store with drive-through. And that was the basis of our application.
So can I ask, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, because if I'm cutting out, I have to switch providers on my internet. So please let me know if I'm cutting out.
Okay.
So the first question is, we really need your client present, okay? Because your client is the only one who can answer the very most basic question, what is it he or she intends to do on this site? What is the activity that's being done on the site? When you say a convenience store, I hear something like a 7-Eleven, which is a place where you can, go to refrigerators and pull out stuff from the refrigerators and get a cup of coffee, and more or less that's your choices. It could also be a Dunkin' Donuts. So we need to know, what is it, right? We need specifics. And if they don't know yet, because it's being done speculatively, they need to decide. Because either we send you to DOB to make a call about what this use is, or I'm not sure what to do, because I don't know what authority this board has in terms of the variance, let's just say the variance, with respect to a drive-in 7-Eleven, which I'm not aware exists as a thing. So whereas we know there are drive-in Dunkin' Donuts, we see them all the time, right? So we need the owner there to tell us what the intention is. Okay, that's step one. The second step.
Understood.
The second step, which is something probably not to talk about at the hearing, but to discuss with Daryl Ruffin, your project manager, and Carlo Costanza, our executive director, is how the application should be framed. So one of the things we were talking about, since the zoning for the site has changed significantly since 1945, right? And now commercial use is permitted as of right on the entirety of the site. And the only thing that's not permitted as of right is a gas station. So a thing that pumps gas, right? So one way of approaching it might be to change the application into a special permit for the gas pumping station. And then you just pursue your, whatever that structure is and whatever's inside independently with the Department of Buildings, and they decide whether you can have a drive-through or not. Okay. So whether you can have a drive-through or not as of right, because otherwise you have to come to us. I mean, wait a second, is it eating or drinking with a drink? Yeah, so eating and drinking with drive-through are permitted as of right in this district, but only if it's like a Dunkin' Donuts, which is an eating and drinking, but not if it's a 7-Eleven in my analysis of it. But I'm not the Department of Buildings. That's up to them to decide what that is, right? You understand the subtleties?
I'm on the same page with you, Chairman.
Okay. So Daryl, go ahead.
We received the change of ownership on February 12th.
Thanks, Daryl. Okay. All right. So that's the issue. I have to admit that if you sort of had the special permit for the gas station take over and of the variance, essentially relinquish the variance in exchange for a special permit. I'm not exactly sure how we analyze the gas station and access and all of that if the structure that's on it is as of right. But I would have to say you'd almost have to pursue the as of right stuff first. Carlo, are you still here? Carlo? I think we lost Carl. I'm going to ask him to
Texted.
come back. Tony, can you call him or text him?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost, in my view, to make it cleaner, it's almost like first you go to the Department of Buildings to find out what they think this is and whether you can have a drive-through. And then you submit the application for the drive-through. And then you come back to us for a special permit for the gas station, because otherwise I don't really know how to look at it, because we're now talking about how the drive-through, if it's before us, we have a lot of demands, as you heard, right? We hate drive-throughs that go near the residential property line for good reason, because they drive neighbors completely crazy, especially if they're operating late at night. And so we would want this site plan to be completely reconfigured. So I'm not really sure how to deal with this. It would have been easier if this was a drive-through for eating and drinking, then we could proceed, I think, because it's allowed as of right. And then we could sort of talk about it in the context of variance, I guess. I'm sorry,
Carlo, are
it's
you
very
there?
confused and we didn't talk about it. I'd say, I know this is confusing and I'm not really sure what to do, that we should be resolving this two different ways. One is you come back with a plan that addresses the board's comments about the relationship between the drive-through and the residential property. And maybe we could all come to like a nice agreement about how this is done. But you need to have your owner, your client, tell you what's supposed to go in this building, because I'm not even sure you're allowed to have a drive-through at all. And in that case, if the owner says, I want a 7-Eleven, then you need to go to DOB and see whether DOB thinks a drive-through is an as-of-right use for a 7-Eleven.
I understand. So perhaps it makes sense to adjourn. Madam Chair, am I speaking over you?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I apologize. Perhaps it makes sense to adjourn the hearing. I recirculate with my contacts, figure out what their intended uses are, and if it's known at this time, or it's purely speculative based upon what approvals we can receive, and then we can circle back with Mr. Ruffin and Mr. Costanza to see what's the best way to proceed. That's
probably reasonable. And if it's decided to pursue the application more or less as is, having taken care of the question of the use, because at this moment we don't know if it's even permitted, that you modify the drawings to be responsive to the issue of the residential adjacency.
Understood.
Okay, so that as to
not a problem.
Okay, all right. Other comments from commissioners or staff? No? So let's see if anyone from the public has called in.
Okay, the item is item number 19, 37845BZ, 11660-60 Supton Boulevard, Queens. And if you're calling in, it is 646-558-8646. Zoom webinar ID number is 946-751-21. No, that's not right, is it? Yeah, 746-7511-2161, sorry. Passcode is 714839. And if you're in the Zoom room already, please *9 to raise your hand. *6 to unmute. And if you're in the Zoom room, just raise your hand.
Right, so we have two names I don't recognize who are in the Zoom room. If you want to speak on this, raise your Zoom hand. And there are two phone numbers. If you want to speak, *9. So how much time, Mr. Kochar, I'm sorry, I keep messing your name up, Kochisarli?
Perfect, thank you.
I also have a name that people mess up, so I sympathize. So my question is, how much time do you think you need to get in touch with your client? And then, of course, we can throw in the idea of, I'd say maybe 3 weeks in terms of our coming to a conclusion about how this should be handled. But is that enough? And so if we were to make that simultaneous with finding out from your client, well, not simultaneous. First, you need to find out from your client, what are they intending to do here?
Mm-hmm.
Then you would come to Mr. Costanza and Ruffin
Mm-hmm.
and have a conversation. And then proceed from there. So I'm thinking like 2 months. Does that sound?
Well, yeah, if we have to go through an extensive re-application process based upon my client's instructions, then yeah, I think 2 months makes sense. But question for you, the last comment of the board was noticing to the neighbors.
Yes.
We specifically did not do that in this case because under Rule 107-.6 of the SOC rules, we were not required to do so.
Right.
If we proceed with the application as is with the modifications the board is requesting, is it the board's insistence that we do notice the neighbors for the next hearing?
Yes. So it would be like this. Because the reason, sometimes though the rules say you don't need to do it on certain applications where neighbors are really directly affected by a proposal, we make a special requirement to notify. So in the cases of drive-through like this, you're really affecting immediate neighbors quite dramatically. That's why we would want to notify the immediate neighbors. Okay.
Well, we certainly hope we're not. Sure, not a problem.
Okay. We hope you're not also, but we often see that drive-throughs affect them significantly. So we want their participation in the process. Okay. So
no question.
I think I'm going to give you a little more, maybe like 10 weeks to submit and just a little more breathing room. Okay. So.
Okay.
Okay.
I have
so
a quick question.
Sorry, go ahead.
A quick question in terms of what the board is expecting to receive. Should they pursue a ZRD1 zoning determination, or?
So the part of the problem is it's very open-ended. Is the client thinking of something that's clearly an eating and drinking establishment, in which case you don't have to have this conversation, or are they proposing something else? That's why I keep saying a 7-Eleven versus a Dunkin' Donuts, right? We've had Dunkin' Donut drive-ins several times, right? And where not an association with a gas station, but definitely as standalones, right? For drive-in special permits and drive-throughs. And but we've never had a 7-Eleven drive-through, and I'm not aware that such a thing exists. Because what is it that you go to the drive-through to ask for, you know? So that's the question. So if the position is that that's something that's allowed as of right with a drive-through, then I would want a DOBZ or D1 on that, because it doesn't make any sense to me that would be a use group 6 eating and drinking. So yeah, so it kind of depends. Yeah, Vice Chair Sheldon.
I just want to be clear. I understand this. I think at the end, what we are asking DOB, regardless of what business company is locating there, it's a question of whether an eating and drinking establishment is permitted as of right, and if it is, with that a drive-through. I think it's irrelevant whether it's a Starbucks or Dunkin' Donut or 7-Eleven. Whether it's an eating and drinking establishment.
No, so that's, no, I disagree. No. There's a difference between a place like say, let's just do an exaggeration. It's a Burger King. I don't think anybody will dispute, or a McDonald's, anybody will dispute that a McDonald's is an eating and drinking establishment for which we give special permits for drive-throughs. We have 2 of them before us today, right? So that wouldn't be any issue. If this were a McDonald's on this site that also pumped gas, it would be an eating and drinking with a drive-through for which they would need, under normal circumstances, a special permit, but because for the drive-through, but because maybe they wouldn't, I don't know, I don't remember.
No, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't. For whatever reason, we
No.
do. Okay, whatever. So the eating and drinking doesn't need a special permit in all situations. In some situations it does, right? Why do we do this? The McDonald's has a special permit for a drive-through.
No, because this is in a zoning district where eating and drinking establishment with a drive-through is permitted as of route without requiring a special permit.
Because it's a C2, right? All right, but what I want to say is there's no question that a McDonald's is an eating and drinking, right? For me, I question whether a convenience store, as that term is associated, which we usually think of as you go in, you buy a bottle of soda and some chips and you get back in your car and you keep driving, as opposed to that, where I don't see that a drive-through associated with that is a permitted accessory use under use group 6. If that is what the owner wants to do, then I want a ZRD1 where DOB decides whether a drive-through is an acceptable accessory use with respect to that use. So it's a very specific use question. It's not irrelevant to me, because when I read this and I saw convenience store, I hear a place where you sell soda and chips and you go inside and you go back in your car and you drive away.
The reason I'm asking that is,
for that.
the reason I'm asking that is because I've seen pharmacies like CVS type stores, right? It's a convenience store, but they also have a drive-through where you can pick up your pharmacy things. So that's why I'm asking that question.
So what I'm saying is I have no idea how that pharmacy is allowed to do it, because the zoning resolution doesn't mention anything about drugstores with drive-throughs. It mentions banks and drive-throughs. If they want to do that as of right, that's a DOB call. I don't want to be the one to call that.
Fair enough.
Right use.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right. So
May I be permitted to speak for on this issue real quick?
yes, go ahead.
So just to be clear, with our application to DOB, they required us to come and obtain BSA approval, which for us was an interpretation that the gas station was a use group 16, and that the convenience store with the drive-through was the accessory use that required board approval.
So the reason is that you're a variance application, right? So as we always say, once at the BSA, you're married to the BSA forevermore, right? So the variance application was to allow a gas station with lubritorium and repair bays, right? And now you're converting it to a convenience store. There's the technical policy notice that was issued by DOB that says, yes, you can consider a convenience store where they sell soda and chips, which doesn't really sound much like automotive use. But way back in the day, whenever that was, in the 90s or 80s or something, people started to realize when you go to a gas station, you get out of the car and you walk inside because you want a soda and chips and a lotto card and stuff like that. And by the way, a little bit of lubricating oil like that, right? And some car and window wash. So the DOB said, as long as your building doesn't have more selling area than X, we'll consider that accessory to the gas station. So when you went to DOB with a drawing that says convenience store, they're saying, fine, but you have to go to BSA and get BSA to agree that this is a convenience store that's accessory to the gas station. We're unpacking it a little, and you could do that. And we've done many, many convenience stores that are accessory to a gas station amendments, like what you originally talked about. However, the subject of the drive-through is the issue here. If you eliminated the drive-through, we wouldn't have to have any conversation anymore. We would just say, sure, it's a convenience store accessory to the gas station. But the fact that you want a drive-through changes everything.
But the BSA has
then-
already approved. I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah, no, but and I want to say, I know that it approved in 2015. I don't know under what authority. So when we were looking at this, and I remember I was new to the board, and I remember Carlo's warning, are you sure you want to do that? And I didn't understand the ramifications of it. And then when I go back and I look at that case, I'm like, I have no idea under what authority the board granted that. So normally I would ask the applicant's counsel, under what authority can we do that? Is the drive-through permitted as of right? And I don't know the answer because this is a convenience store. What is allowing the convenience store to exist other than granting it a variance? So you could say, like, if DOB says, no way, you can't have a drive-through with a convenience store, then you're asking us to grant a variance to allow a convenience store with a drive-through. So what would be your argument that you need the drive-through? Very complicated.
I understand, but there's a more recent case where the BSA did approve a convenience store with drive-through as an accessory use to a gas station. It was in Brooklyn, I believe.
I thought it's just the one you sent us, the 2015 case.
No, there's another one that recently was approved. Let me get the BSA number.
But that might have been a Dunkin' Donuts.
I understand.
And so-
Okay.
And so that
We'll get clarified.
classic, donut and coffee, please.
And
Drive,
gas.
okay? So that's the
Okay.
question here. Now you're in a convenience store. And I know the Dunkin' Donuts is sometimes called a convenience store, but then you look on the drawings and you see actually it's only that people don't even go inside the store. It's only receiving through the window.
Okay, so we'll certainly do our homework and get back to Carlo and to Darren, and then we'll proceed from there.
Okay, Daryl L's. Okay, not Darren. Darren. Okay.
Oh, I apologize. Sorry, Daryl.
Okay. All right, great. So I'm saying 10 weeks to submit and we'll work out the detail, the kinks. Okay, thank you very much for your understanding.
Of course. Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
So,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Okay.
So it's 2:30. Apology. Oh, so go ahead, Tony, go ahead.
I just want to bring your attention. So what are we doing with that 24503 BZ? Willet's Point? What do you want to do? You said maybe
If we
this
have
afternoon
time at the end of
Mariana?
the day, we'll put it in. If we have time at the end of the day, we'll put it in. And if we don't, it goes tomorrow. I don't know what else to say, right?
Okay.
I'd love to give them more advance warning. Just have to sit tight because I don't know how long we're going to go this afternoon.
Okay.
Okay? So you
All right.
want to close the morning session.
All right. So this concludes the public hearing 10 a.m. session for February 22nd, 2021. We'll resume at 2:30. No, wait, I'm sorry, not 2:30.
No. So now we're moving into the afternoon session, right? And because the board continued its morning session all the way up until now, it's going to take a 30-minute break. And then we will start the 2 p.m. session, right?
Yeah.
And
At
you
what
want
time though?
to just call the first case on the 2 p.m. session so people know?
Okay, so the first case for the 2 p.m. session is new cases on the SOC calendar, 8610 BZ, 9308 95th Avenue, Queens.
Okay, so we will come back to that case at 3 p.m. Okay? Not 3 p.m. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. See you later. Okay, if everyone could come back, please.
Oops. Okay. You ready?
We have all the commissioners, Commissioner Otley Brown. Maybe we get started and hopefully Commissioner Otley Brown can join in. I'll text her that we started. Because we're recording and we're live.
Okay, can I start calling?
Yeah.
I don't think we're live. We are?
Yeah, as recording live on YouTube.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Okay, good afternoon. This is the Board of Standards and Appeals Public Review Session for February 22nd, 2021, 2 p.m. session. There is no public testimony during this review session. The first item up is SOC calendar, new cases. Item number 20, 8610BZ, 9308 95th Avenue, Queens.
Okay, we have proof of service of initial application to officials and of notice of hearing to officials. Community Board recommends approval with 1 abstention. This is a pre-61 variance that was reinstated in 2010. And I just want to clarify that there has not been, I'd like them to clarify that there has not been a further enlargement subsequent to the 2010 legalization. There she is. So if applicant could clarify that. I'm not understanding why the street tree wasn't actually planted as directed and shown on the approved plan. It was supposed to be planted right in front of the building. I do see, of course, money paid to the Department of Parks in lieu of planting the tree, but why wasn't the tree planted on the block? As far as I can tell, there is not a curb cut in front of the property or close to where the tree would have been. So what's the reason for not having planted it? The other side of the street is tree lined, so it's a shame not to have trees on this side of the street. Those were my comments. Vice Chair Shonda.
I had no comments, additional comments, other than I just wanted to know the trash pickup says 2 times a week, Tuesday and Wednesday. I just wanted to know what time of the day. That's all.
Okay. Commissioner Otley Brown.
I have no additional comments to yours, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Sheta.
Nothing further from me. Thank you.
Commissioner Shibata.
I have nothing additional, Chair.
Okay.
Next item is item number 21, 2016 4340BZ, 13102 40th Road. This is an amendment of a approved special permit.
Right. With this one, I actually didn't find proof of service of initial application in the folder. They must have served it because we have a community board recommendation. But I meant to send an email this morning and I didn't hit the send button. So please dig around in the folder and send me a copy of the proof of service of initial application and put it in the right folder in SharePoint. We do have proof of notice of hearing to officials and community board recommends approval. According to the, so this is another application that drove me crazy. So here we go again. According to the aerial view plan, this is a request supposedly to increase the height to the top of the warning light on the top of the bulkhead from 216 feet to 229 feet above mean sea level. However, drawings indicate that the requested increase is between 16 and 31 feet. So that doesn't have anything to do with anything. The resolution and approved plans, our resolution and the BSA approved plans state that the previously approved heights were 216 feet above grade level and 228 feet above mean sea level. So those are the two data that the FAA uses. So the aerial view plan that I just described and cover letter, which also mentions a number, are both incorrect with respect to what the board approved. So I actually have no idea how the application materials could be that wrong relative to what was previously approved. It says it right there in the resolution and on the approved plans. The elevations, and this is very, again, confusing, must be in above mean sea level, AMSL, and in NAVD 88, and not in NGVD. It could also be an NGVD if somehow that makes you happy, but it's got to be an NAVD 88. It's got to be, right? And it must be the same level of detail as the previously approved plans. So the previously approved plans were pretty good, and these don't have the same level of detail. So you're kind of giving us less this time for an amendment. The explanation for the height increase, because the building got 31 feet taller, apparently. The explanation for the height increase is 4 feet for the elevator bulkhead, 19 feet for the cooling towers, an unknown height for mechanical transfer floor, 18-inch FAA warning lights, which are not shown on the new sections or elevations, and increases in floor-to-floor heights, which inaccurately state an increase from 9-foot 4-inch slab to 9-foot 7-inch slab to slab, when the approved drawings show an 8'9" or a 9'8" slab floor-to-floor height, and the proposed is a 9'8" to 10'8" floor-to-floor height, and there's no transfer floor shown anywhere. So what's the cover letter and the architect's letter talking about? The drawings don't show anything related to what they say. The drawings also should have indicated the changes between what was approved and what's proposed with bubbles. That's our standard. That's what we expect as part of our administrative notice. And there's also no FAA, no hazard letter. And there's no aeronautical engineer's report that assures the board that the 31-foot increase is okay. Nothing. So in short, the submission is a mess and isn't ready to be heard. And the applicant requested an expedited review back when they submitted this as a letter of substantial compliance, which of course we can't approve a 31-foot increase in height by substantial compliance letter. And no notice of comments was issued, which was a mistake. It should have been issued because the application wasn't ready to come before us. And so that makes me angry because this is a waste of time. So I would say this easiest thing to do is just not have a hearing on this and adjourn it. And so I could mark it adjourned with comments. And then so we don't waste everybody's time talking about why they didn't do it unless the applicant actually has questions. So where they didn't understand the direction, it's the only reason that I might consider having the hearing on it. So, all right, so Vice Chair Shanda.
Yes, I had same comments as yours. I have nothing further to add.
Okay. Commissioner Brown?
I had the same comments as both of you, and I found it extremely confusing.
Mhm. So, one question is, it's extremely confusing. Why should we have to explain this to the applicant? I see Mr. Pittman is in the waiting room. If anyone knows how to put together this application, he does. So I'm not sure why we should even have a conversation about this other than, wasting our time, basically. Commissioner Sheta?
Nothing further. I have the same set of comments, so I have nothing else to add.
Okay. Commissioner Shibata?
I agree, Chair. I think we should vote now to adjourn or just adjourn it before having the hearing.
Okay. So we can just adjourn. And if the applicant has specific questions, they could text, who's this? Text Daryl and let Daryl know that they have specific questions. It's the only reason I would open it. I don't want to have a discussion about woulda, shoulda, coulda. Crazy that they submitted such a terrible application. And that's why I'm so angry today. This is one of the cases. Okay.
Tranquilo.
All right. What? What'd you
Never
say?
mind.
What'd you say?
Tranquilly, be tranquil.
Yeah, it's hard when you're ruining your weekend because you have to spend all this time figuring out what it is they should have done instead of reading what they did do, right?
Okay.
So,
So move on to the next case.
Mm.
590, item number 22, 59076 BZ, 243 East 59th Street, Manhattan. This is an extension of term on a variance.
We approve of service of initial application and notice of hearing to officials. Community Board recommends approval with 4 opposed, 1 abstention. The cover letter doesn't tell you much about this application. Another one of those things where the board's supposed to figure it out on our own. This is a 1,000 square, so this is quite a crazy application, and Commissioner Otley Brown may remember it. So this is a 1,000 square foot vinyl advertising sign. So vinyl meaning it's just hung with little clips. So there's like not much in the way of capital investment here, except that they installed the required scaffolding for OSHA reasons, and onto which I think is mounted the lights to light up at the vinyl sign. So it's a 1,000 square foot advertising sign with illumination in a C28 zoning district, attached to the east facing wall of a 5-story residential building with 8 units in it, I believe, which faces a New York City park, Tramway Plaza, and the entrance to the Queensboro Bridge, which is an arterial highway. If the park is more than half an acre, and also the arterial highway, both of those conditions would prohibit an advertising sign if this were a zoning district in which advertising signs are permitted as of right. But it's not. You cannot have advertising signs of any size in a C2A. And the maximum size of a non-advertising sign is 150 square feet. So this is an enormous sign. And I always like to put it in perspective. It's 1,000 square feet. So an apartment that's 1,000 square feet is a 2-bedroom under HPD guidelines. So and so I also asked, shouldn't the application materials have gone through the findings, explained why this advertising sign was granted in the first place and renewed repeatedly over the years, and whether the conditions complained of at the time have changed. So it's true that you can't learn much from the actual resolutions that were submitted to us. At least they gave us the resolutions, except that the term of this started in the 1970s for 3 years. And then it was subsequently increased to 5 years. And then in the 90s was increased to 10 years. And it was initially granted in the 70s. at the time when the board articulated no findings, it famously would say, having made the findings, we find. So we can't figure out what the findings were. In order for us to actually understand more about the application, we would have to get a copy of the materials from archives, which the applicant should have done if they haven't, to find out what were the reasons for granting the variance. I suspect that it was because the economic conditions in the 1970s were pretty desperate. We saw quite a lot of variances in the 70s, especially in those hotel zone, in the areas where you couldn't build a hotel in manufacturing districts, and conversions of lofts and things like that. And also, this variance coincides with the exact date that the tram was being constructed. So probably there was a lot of, disruption around the site, making it very difficult for whatever occupancy or rental or something like that. And maybe that was the argument that was given. There were conditions, and then just to go on, there were conditions that required the CO be amended, but the 2001 CO doesn't mention the sign or the BSA. So it's not complying with the conditions of the grant. I do have to say that I acknowledge that these are hard times right now. And it's very possible that the sign income today, because the sign is hanging, and I'm just guessing that the sign companies are still good for their rent, whereas tenants, residential, and there's one store, I think, on the ground floor, and retail tenants may not be good for the rent at the moment. So I'm sympathetic to the idea that this may be a critical income right now. But I have to say that if this application had come to us in 2019, I would say the variance subsequent to the economic downturns of the late 70s, when everyone was suffering, has been a windfall for the owner for a very, very long time. And since there's no capital modification that's needed, you just unhook. Well, you don't even have to do anything, because it's the outdoor advertising company that just simply doesn't hang another sign next month. So there isn't actually any cost to the owner to discontinue the use. And I think they've really amortized their advertising sign in a location where normally it wouldn't be permitted and isn't necessary anymore, except that I'm sympathetic to this time period, to this really bad time period. And so that may be a short extension until an economic recovery, and then you terminate the variance. That's really my view on this. So Vice Chair Shanda.
My comments were based on the submission. If you look at the site plan, it shows existing and proposed condition sheet 2 of 3. It shows a catwalk, and that was one of the modifications that was made at the last approval. However, the site photos does not show a catwalk, so I would like a clarification whether that's meant to be a temporary catwalk or a permanent catwalk. Similarly, the site photo that was provided seems to show that the sign is located more than 51 foot above the curb level. It is probably closer, somewhere very close to the top of the roof. So that needs to be responded to. I also would like to know as to the lumen level of the lights, because these are goosehead lights and they're pointing downwards. There are bedroom windows, apartment windows on the second floor facing the tramway plaza. So just because of that, I'm asking this question.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Ali Brown.
I really don't have any objections to this case. For me, this is not like a pre-existing non-conformity. It actually was granted a variance. I'm not going to second guess that original board as to what hardship they found here. I'm just going to accept that they found a hardship, because we don't second guess a lot of those 70s and 80s variances. And so I wouldn't want to single this one out for scrutiny when actually they have reduced their size from the original size, which was 1,500 square feet at 60 feet height. And their original disapproval from the community board is now an approval from the community board. So I would consider that they're probably operating in compliance with their previously approved grants. And so I'm inclined to allow this extension to go through for those reasons.
Commissioner Sheto.
I'm satisfied with the application and I don't have any comments on it.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Thank you, Chair. I'm inclined to permit the extension. To be fair, I haven't considered your statements until you made them, your position until you made it. So I'd like to give that some more thought. But as of now, upon my review, I didn't see anything of concern with this application.
I just have that. This is a general question. It's like, this is really a general, it's almost like a philosophical question because, you know, the sign, whatever. It's like a little bit of a vinyl sign. You don't really notice it. You know, whatever. But we have these renewals for a reason. Like what? Otherwise, why have a term on a variance if you're not looking again at the conditions on the variance? That's the part that I don't understand. Like, no question to me that in the 70s, times were terrible and they probably really could make a financial showing. And even in the 90s, when it came back in the 90s, there was another terrible time. And actually their timing, maybe every single time they came for a renewal, frankly, I think it was a terrible time. I think the other one was like 2007 or something like that. So the timing of it's kind of interesting. It's almost like the sign predicts economic disaster. So, but I'm not saying, and I'm sympathetic to this now, but that's the part where I'm not getting it. Like, what's the point of having a term if you're just always going to renew? With gas stations, I get it a lot better, right? The gas station, you've got underground storage tanks. The site is, you know, to discontinue the variance is an enormous economic loss to the property owner because they'd have to start all over again from scratch, not to mention environmental remediation and everything. But in this kind of a case, it's like unhooking some grommets and then you're done. Commissioner Sheta has his hand up.
Yeah, I just want to indicate that I totally agree with you, Chair, regarding the when you have a variance and there is no term on it, it is what it is. They got it and they keep it. We cannot like come back later and start like looking into the findings of that variance. But with term variance, I would call them when we have a specific term and they are coming for renewals. I believe as a board, we should be looking into the conditions of the initial grant and whether they change. Probably the economic conditions were like totally changed and the hardship previously claimed is no longer there. So probably if it is what it is, stop it. But for the subject case, I agree that we're in tough time. We're passing through like a very difficult times, and I haven't seen any like something alerting on the case, except for I didn't actually visit the site, and I didn't know that there are like residential just right below it. So if that's the only concern and is cleared, I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And it's true, the community board, after years and years of struggle, finally they got used to it. I don't know. I don't actually know why. It's a different community board. I mean, it's the makeup of the board is different. You know, all those things happen where they're kind of like, why fight it? Okay. All right. Next one.
Next item number 23, 6-04BZ, 7118, 7124, 3rd Avenue, Brooklyn. It's extension of term of variance for PCE.
We have proof of service of initial application and of notice of hearing to officials. Community board recommends conditional approval, saying, asking the applicant to keep the sidewalk along 72nd Street clean, and that the applicant provide Community Board 10 with annual affidavit showing that they are in compliance with the variance. Fire department had a very strong letter of objection, which I'll read briefly. It says, according to the CO of 1991, these premises have a fire alarm system for the use described as club room, meeting hall, and theater. Such fire alarm system for a PCE does not meet the current building code requirements, in short. Therefore, an amended C of O has never been issued. Since a new C of O has never been issued for the change of use, compliance with Chapter 9 of the building code must be met. Plans and applications are to be filed for a new fire alarm system in compliance with Chapter 9 of the building code. In addition, the Bureau of Fire Prevention's PA, Public Place of Assembly Unit, has inspected the premises and issued a violation for failure to obtain a PA permit, which according to DOB Biz, an application for a PA permit was reviewed and disapproved in 2012. Yeah, so we respectfully request that the BSA not issue a special permit until after an application for a new fire alarm system has been filed, and they object. So the statement of facts doesn't seem to be clear about whether this is a variance or a special permit. The applicant of all people should be the one who's clear about what it is they're making an application for. So please clean up the material that you submit as a lawyer, that you submit to this board. You can go through the findings of a special permit because that may be helpful to help the board understand the parameters, or let's say useful parameters for its review. But if it's not a special permit, then don't call it a special permit. And so for clarity, since the applicant was not clear, this is a variance application to allow the PCE not permitted in an R or a C13 district. In 1960, a variance was granted to allow the conversion of the existing theater building. It's a theater building to a bowling alley, restaurant, and bar that extended into the R district. The applicant was supposed to have recited the board history in the submission, but only went back to 2005. So again, we have to do the work for the applicant's representative. I don't want to do their work. They get paid to do this work. I'm infuriated by how lazy everyone is, or many of these applicants are. It's just beyond the pale. One half of the PCE on the site is in an R5B, and the other half is in a C13 R6B. The plans have to be corrected to show R5B and not R6B for that side that's in the residence district. So there's typos on the drawings, which should have been picked up by the applicant. Also, they need to indicate the distance from the property line to the district boundary so we can see how much of the building sits in which zoning district. But again, it's an existing non-conforming use that received a variance from this board in 1960. Nowhere in the statement of facts does it mention the size of the site, the area of the building, or the area of the PCE. That we had to get from the resolutions. So again, terrible application, incomplete, badly prepared. The areas for the second and third floors for both, the areas for the second and third floors are labeled, both are labeled, quote, previously approved and existing proposed, unquote, are completely different from the previously approved areas stated in the resolution, with no explanation. There's no areas shown on the approved drawings. So the only place you could get the areas from is from the zoning resolution, from the BSA resolution. So where in the world did those incorrect existing areas come from? And why are we even seeing them without any explanation at all from anyone? In fact, the area on the third floor doubled in size between what was approved and what's shown now. There has not been a CO issued on the site since 1991, yet the BSA grant was in 2005. There have been violations issued for this lack of CO for the last decade or more. And I'd like to know what could possibly need 15 years to clean up the site. They must obtain an interim CO at the very least if there's some other use that's holding up the obtaining a CO, but there's no excuse. 15 years later, you still don't have a certificate of occupancy. There's a side yard addition with an elevator and stair that accesses the PCE. Is it even a permissible construction? It was built without permits. Was never approved by DOB. You look on the BIS site and the application that may have been for it shows it's disapproved. They never pulled a permit. So I don't even know, I'm not really even sure what we're supposed to be looking at because the drawings weren't allowed. Let's say that, not the drawings, that extension that provides the access to the PCE was never permitted by DOB. So I actually don't know what to do. And there are offices, so they removed from the rear of the PCE, they removed the offices. How can you, and then they say they're reducing the area of the PCE. How can you do that? Those offices are called accessory to the PCE. That means they're part of the PCE. They also have no windows. So it's not as if you're going to rent those out to somebody else because there's no windows in any of the offices. And I believe what they're doing is they're looking out and over into the gym. So it's not like it can be a separate set of offices. So why was that removed from the PCE? We need interior photos. I don't think those were submitted unless they were submitted this morning. I didn't see. And a compliance chart was provided in the statement of facts, although it contradicts a statement in the same exact document a few paragraphs earlier where it says everything is in compliance. And then it goes on to talk about what's in compliance and what isn't in compliance. The compliance chart addresses most of the conditions of the prior grants, but not the fire protection condition. They need to provide photo documentation of compliance with the no parking sign, the access gate, and the curb cut. All of those were conditions of the grant. And you can't just say yes, you have to show us the sign, show us the curb cut, show us the gate. I didn't find penalties due on the open ECB violations, so it looks like they're paid up even though the violations are still active. So another badly prepared application, yay. And these are simple applications. Why are there so many bad ones? All right, Vice Chair Shanda, apologies, I'm just in a terrible mood.
One of the questions I had was with regards to the continuous use proof that was not provided because it expired in 2017. I think based on the Google Street View, the sports club, the New York Sports Club has been operating at this site as per the Google Street View, September 2017, June 2018, and June 2019. But
so we're reviewing in these hearings an unfortunate phenomenon that happened at the board, which was applications submitted in 2017 and 2018 that sort of rotted on the vine, and the applicants didn't respond to notice of comments.
Okay.
Or if they did, then the notice of comments weren't recognized by the staff. And so they just sort of rotted there, and they're all coming here now. So
okay,
it's actually submitted, I think,
okay,
before expiration. So
okay, all right. So cross that comment out from the record. The second comment I had was with regards to the hours of operation. Since it was not mentioned, I just wanted to know if there has been any change in the hours of operations, and if not, what is the current hours of operation. With regards to the sound, I would like to know what kind of sound attenuation has been provided. Well, it's a theater, so I am assuming it's in pretty good condition. But just for the record, it would be good to know that because there is a retail use on the ground floor.
There's a McDonald's on the ground floor.
Yes, there's a McDonald's on the ground
And
floor.
the drugstore is next door.
Right. I think CVS or
It's Rite Aid.
Rite Aid, right, yeah. Yeah, I think those were the only two comments I had.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Ollie Brown,
I have no additional comments.
Commissioner Sheta. You're muted or you're frozen. I think he's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen.
He's frozen. I'm gonna. Commissioner
We got it.
Sheta.
We got him.
Oh, we got him again. There we go. Commissioner Sheta, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
What happened?
Do you have any
You're
comments?
frozen.
Case, this is 6
604 BZ. Commissioner, can you hear us?
Yeah, it sounds like I have a problem with the internet. Give me 1 second, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go to Commissioner Shibata, see if he has any comments, and then we'll come back.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm wondering what the applicant should do here. I think that he needs to, I'm not sure if he should withdraw and refile after they get something done. Because this application certainly isn't ready, but at the same time, I do want to keep tabs on it because there's a lot going on here that needs to be addressed immediately.
Right.
And if I remember correctly, this site was a source of complaints to, the neighbors were always complaining about the garbage, I think, and that's why community board likes to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, so we don't have photos, I don't think we have any photos of the side yards. I think that's what they were complaining about, right? Trash in the side yards, so we need photos of the side yards. But I agree, I don't actually, I think what happened in the prior case was, in the prior review of this, the board was assuming the future construction of that side addition, I think, because it's shown, that little addition that has the elevator and stair was shown on the previously approved drawings, but it was shown as proposed, not like an existing condition. So it looks like in order to meet ADA requirements and egress and all of that, they added that little thing in the alley. But then all of these years later, they never even got a permit for it. So maybe DOB said, how are you building in the alley? I don't even understand this. It's, you've already exceeded your FAR or something. It could be that, you know, I don't know. The big building. So I actually don't know. It's a big building, but it doesn't have a lot of floor area because it's a theater. I don't know what the issue is. Commissioner Sheta?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry for that internet outage. Yeah, the only comment in addition to what is been mentioned is I'm looking for some interior photos for the
Yeah.
PCE. That's all.
Yeah. So we need interior photos, and, you know, arguably this thing about the garbage on the side, it depends on who's in charge of the garbage, kind of. Is that the landlord or is that the tenant? Is the PCE a tenant? That's always this difficulty where neighbors complain about a site, but it's not really the purview of the PCE operator. So that's a question. Okay.
Move on.
Yeah.
Okay, and item number 24, 2110 BZ, 2801 Roebling Avenue, the Bronx.
Just one second.
Extension of term of special permit, eat and drink.
Just one second. Okay. All right. We have proof of service of initial application and of notice of hearing to officials. Community board recommends approval. This board last heard this in connection with a request to amend the hours of operation and landscaping in 2015. And we had the applicant notify neighbors of the proposed change. I think we should have the applicant do this again, especially in light of our ongoing education about the potential nuisance that these uses may impose on residential neighbors, namely the drive-through. The very limited noise readings, I thought the noise reading document that we submitted was just frankly weird. There were 2 readings taken, one at the entrance to the drive and one along the property line up against the wall. I mean, for what, right? But anyway, they were taken in 2017 because again, this is an old application that finally made its way here. They need to be redone using the methods that are in our administrative notice and are typical of what we've been seeing recently. The site is immediately adjacent to a residence with the rear yard diagonally opposite and a roof terrace directly opposite the menu board and trash. So very unfortunate sighting of both of those things, which had this come anew to us this year or this past year, we wouldn't have permitted. We also need a lumen spread diagram. We didn't receive one. Statement of fact doesn't describe the size of the site. Again, it's the same representative. Statement of facts doesn't really give you the facts, doesn't tell you what the size of the site is, the frontage or the frontage of the site, or the size of the building. The only way you could know that is either look on the drawings or look in the resolution. So it requires us to scour the materials to find it. When letter responses to the notice of comments are submitted, the statement of facts needs to be amended to include all the information provided in the letter, in the response letter, because we often don't read the response letter because we expect the information to be in the revised statement of facts. That's just laziness. And for our project managers, that's what you have to ask for: amended statements of facts that include all the information in the letter that's responding to the notice of comments. The size of the lot also needs to be verified, as there are different lot areas in the resolutions. So I actually don't know how big the lot is. The one question is, are there street trees and landscaping next to the residential building, which is what's required from the resolutions and the approved plan. Satellite imagery shows no landscaping at all, and only no landscaping at all on the site itself, and only one street tree on Roebling. So they need to provide photos showing the perimeter conditions, all the perimeter conditions, and the required landscaping. And I think, just to put the cherry on top of how terrible I feel today, it's rather amusing that the applicant requests an extension of the term for 10 years. Says, we would like you to increase the term to 10 years, when the zoning resolution limits our authority under these special permits to 5 years. But why would I expect the applicant to actually read the zoning resolution before they submit their materials? Silly me. All right. So I also want to note the reduction in hours of operation for the drive-through, which should be reflected in the resolution. And I question actually whether a 12 a.m. closing is reasonable for the neighbors. It's really close to the residential right next door. So this may be a situation, this is a situation again where we notify the neighbors, as I said earlier. I'd like to know what the current status of the open violations and CO application is. The architect should attend the hearing. I don't want to see just the council attend, who never knows the answers to questions that the architect knows the answers to. And I want to see, they should provide a sign, which we're requiring of all the drive-throughs, that directs drivers to turn off radios and respect neighbors. That's just the standard that we're going to expect on all the applications. And I would say that our project managers should always be asking that those signs be added to the drawings before we see it. Okay. Vice Chair Shanda.
Sorry. I have similar comments. The plan should include landscaping details and specs. The trash pickup hours and frequency should be provided. Lumen study should be provided. Sign analysis per street frontage has not been provided. With regards to the hours of operations, Madam Chair, are you suggesting that this be amended to the current operating hours, even though the applicant is not planning to change the 2018 hours of operation? Because 2018 hours of when it was granted in 2018, hours of operation was more generous.
No, what I'm saying, so what they're saying here in their submission is what was approved in 2018, 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. and so on till 3 a.m. and all that. The current hours are 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. and 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., which is okay. And Tuesday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. for the drive-through. It's the 12 a.m. to the drive-through. I know that they were more generous back in the day when we really didn't realize what we were doing to neighbors. In that McDonald's, which this is of course a different situation, but just to say the McDonald's, I think we limited the time to 9 or 10 p.m. So that's a part of the discussion is 12 a.m. too late. Yeah. So Commissioner Otley Brown, did you have something else to add, Commissioner Sean? No? Okay. Commissioner Otley Brown.
So I remember this application, and I remember when we saw it the first time, well, the previous time in 2018, I believe the applicant's representative went around and noticed everybody on both sides of this social block and did not come up with any objections about the operation of this site. And so we approved those hours based on the fact that this seemed to be a good operator who was at least not going against the wishes of the people in the neighborhood. And for that reason, I'm inclined to support them keeping their hours at 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. and Friday and Saturday from 6 a.m. to 3 a.m., even though they're not using it, because they should have the flexibility, if they are good actors, to conduct their business in a way that helps them to maximize their profit. I don't want to put anything in their way, because they've not been proven to be disturbing everybody on that block. Now, if that should change, then I think it would be fine to reopen the idea of the hours, but I wouldn't want to take from them if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and operating in compliance.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Commissioner Sheta.
You're muted.
Muted. Muted.
Yep. I realized. Thank you. It did tell me, the computer. Yeah, I want to start with mentioning that I've been to the site. It's really quite site. I stayed there for like half an hour, like walking around, looking at the conditions, and I didn't see like the site that like much noisy or like it. I didn't see too many like traffic entering even the drive-through. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that was last Friday. So I'm not sure if this is related to a specific day. But I did get some pictures. I sent some of them to the project manager and to the council. What bothered me is the lighting. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to share these pictures. Give me 1 second, please. Share screen. Yeah, this is one of the pictures that I took. This is the like the bothering thing for me. Yes, I totally understand that this wall is plain wall. This is residential. But if you look at this light pole, you're gonna see these windows here, and I'm not sure what is this, but you can see like the light is really intense. That light pole is so close, and it's so tall as well. So that's like dumping tons of lumen spreads to that adjacent residential. I did read in the statement of facts that the applicant is arguing that this wall is plain. It doesn't have any windows in it. But I believe if we're talking about that spot, I'm not sure if this is the case. But as you can see, landscape here, some bushes, they are dead almost.
Well, it's
Very, this is the only landscape I have seen on site.
right.
Strip. And because of snow, I wasn't able to like see how big is it. But again, here, you look at that portion of the building. I'm not sure if this is a window. I believe it is. They're gonna have like some headache from the lighting at this portion of the building. Yes, here probably not, but in the back and up there, it might happen.
Right.
In addition to this, I did read in the statement of facts that they have some violations related to construction, and that's why actually I hit it to the side. I didn't see any construction, and when an applicant mentioned that they have violations not related to the subject application or the subject facility, but they are related to construction issue. Tell us what construction is it? I mean, is it the site is the site? I haven't seen any construction on the site, so I'm not sure what was that. In addition, the noise readings in the cover letter, it says that enclosed is a plan showing where the readings were taken. Actually, what was enclosed is not a plan. There is no plan submitted with that cover letter. What is submitted is a statement of facts, not a plan. So please correct that. And I'm willing to know whether there are any complaints from the neighbors or the status still that the neighbors are happy with them, with the facility like it was back in 2008. Thank you.
So there is, I wouldn't be able to find it so quickly. There was a submission of one plan showing noise readings taken, one at the driveway and one along the property line near the, basically against the wall. And that was it. And it didn't tell, I don't think they showed what the readings were. It just says that they put noise monitors there, or maybe it did show what the readings were, but I was kind of like, what's the point of these readings? Why do you want to take a reading at a curb cut when you have a busy highway? You want to take a reading at the residential property line to find out whether, because it's supposed to be measuring the menu board only, right? So I don't know what the purpose of them was, but they were submitted in 2017. So, or prepared in 2017 and maybe resubmitted. So they're not really relevant because they don't comply with any of our new standards for that. But one thing I wanted to say is if you look at the satellite view, you'll see that that little building actually has a second-story extension, I mean, a one-story extension with basically a very large rooftop terrace on it. And that rooftop terrace is at about the same height as the fence. So when you're talking about that very high light pole, it's lighting that rooftop terrace. Like you probably read a book there. When I see that, plus I see that there's a pole in the middle of the wall, and then at the corner there's another pole. So in case your book has shadow from one, it doesn't have shadow from the other. So it's a very evenly lit book on top of that terrace. So, and then the other thing is the drawings show landscaping in the corner of the lot. And I'm pretty sure there is no landscaping, and the satellite imagery shows it's just asphalt. So
I haven't seen that. And the only thing I want to add is I did go through the drive-through, and I did try to order something actually. And I noticed that the noise from the menu board is really minimal. That way that they operated the menu board is, barely could hear it. So I don't think if they like pursue some measurements, I don't think it's gonna be an issue, but I'm asking them to do so.
Okay, okay, thank you. Commissioner Shabeta?
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to be repetitive. I just want to mention that I didn't see any buffer whatsoever against the residents. And I know there's not enough space, but I'd like to see something there. My other comments are with landscaping and lighting, but I'm glad to hear Commissioner Schetz's firsthand experience with regard to the noise from the menu board. My concern is, of course, what we've learned in previous applications with the cars themselves, the beeping, and we've seen videos of how some operations go. I don't know how this particular operation is, but I do think that we should have a more detailed sound attenuation approach here.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you.
Okay, this concludes the public review session. We'll now commence with the public hearing. This is the public hearing, February 22nd, 2021, 2 p.m. And if you're going to call in, it's 646-558-8656. Zoom webinar ID number is 946-7511-2161, and the passcode is 714839. The first item is new case 2020-86-10, 9308 95th Avenue, Queens.
Okay, I need to step away for 30 seconds, okay? That's all. But you can continue.
Madam Vice Chair.
That's fine.
Good afternoon, Mans Iannotti on behalf of the applicant.
Are you alone, Ms. Iannotti?
I'm here also with project architect Chris Papa and applicant and owner Steve Mills.
Okay.
Mr. Mills hasn't called in yet.
Oh, okay.
Would you like us to wait for him or to proceed?
He should be joining by phone. He indicated that he was going to dial in. So if we could wait a moment, that'd be good.
We have two phone numbers that have called in. What are the last three digits of his?
One second. It's 6304. Great.
Please unmute by pressing *6.
Okay, is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Mr. Papa?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Mills? Still mute, *6.
Yeah, you need to unmute yourself, *6 on your telephone.
Mr. Mills?
I think he hung up.
Oh, crap.
Oh, well, okay, can we
You wanna
continue with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
present Ms. Iannotti.
Sure. Thank you. We heard the board's comments at the review session today. Just a couple of things to address. There has been no further enlargement since the legalization in 2010. The pickup schedule for trash is on Tuesday and Friday overnight, generally between 2 and 4 a.m. And Mr. Mills was going to address the street tree. Oh, I see he's back.
Okay. You do? If you
Hello?
want, yes, great, okay.
Hi,
This is-
this is Steve Mills. I apologize.
Okay.
Okay, let me swear you in very quickly. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please proceed, Mr. Mills. You were going to speak about the street trees.
Okay. 10 years ago, when you guys wanted me to put the tree there, they gave me the option of either putting the tree there or paying into the fund. I chose the fund because it's a very small building and all the utilities are maybe 5 feet underground. So I was just scared of all the roots. There's a water main there, in the gas line and the waste line.
Okay. Fair. Okay. Good answer. Okay.
Thank you.
You
Thank you.
tried. Right. Great. All right. I don't think there were any other issues, right, Ms. Iannotti?
I don't think so.
So I would actually, so that future boards don't ask this redundant question about why we don't see street trees, to make a note that for the resolution that that in lieu of a street tree, the owner paid into the Department of Parks fund, and the reason for not providing the street tree was because of underground utilities. And that'll finish that off so we don't keep asking about it, okay? Does council have that?
Okay.
Our council? You got, Kurt, you
Yes.
have that? Okay, thank you. Okay, so
Yes.
let's go to the public quickly.
So this application we're discussing currently is 86-10BZ, 9308 95th Avenue, Queens. And if you wish to call in, it is 646-558-8656. ID number is 946-7511-2161. And the passcode is 714-839. If you are in the Zoom room, please raise your hand. If you have called in, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute.
All right, so I don't think there's any submissions here, so we'll give it just another few minutes in case somebody wants to call in. But I don't think there's anything to submit.
Oh, you want a
So-
revised statement, don't you? Oh, no, you wanted to, never mind. It's in the resolution,
What?
never mind.
No, this was a note to the resolution, so future boards will know not to ask
Right,
about.
sorry.
Okay. Okay, so then I would like to make a motion to close.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll let you know, and we'll try to put this on soon for decision. We'll let you know. Okay,
thank
but there's
you.
no submission
Okay.
anyway. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
okay, the next item is 2016-4340BZ 131-02, 40th Road, Queens. Did you see Darrell's email?
No, I didn't. So, hold on a second. Let me look. Because, yeah.
Madam
Who's
Chair,
that?
so
Carlo? Yeah.
subsequent to the review session, Darrell and I were looking. So we're not sure what occurred in SharePoint, but there had been multiple submissions as well as a staff review of comments that were responded to. I quickly didn't have much time, so I kind of just organized them a little bit, but I did confirm also with one of the applicant's consultants that submissions were made. They gave us receipts. So I really don't know at this point what occurred.
Well, what do you mean? I didn't say that there were no submissions. I was saying the submissions were terrible.
Okay, yeah.
The comments were, it's in the wrong datum. It's telling us stuff that's not true in the statement of facts versus the drawings. I saw submissions. There was a letter from the architect explaining stuff that's just not the case if you look at the drawings. There were bubble drawings. We didn't see, maybe they submitted an FAA no hazard letter, but I didn't see one. So that's the thing that was missing. And maybe they submitted an engineer's aeronautical study, but it was missing. but there's no way that we can review it now. So, this is the kind of thing where if the commissioners are not given a complete set, they cannot review it, right? We can't know it exists unless someone that's supposed to be the project manager checks that the information in the folders are complete. So if the information wasn't complete, I don't know what to say, except to say that there were so many errors in what I looked at that I was tearing my hair, like, what is this, right? So I would have to say, unless the applicant has specific questions for us, we should just adjourn. So did Daryl get a comment from the applicant that there were specific questions? Because I know Mr. Pittman knows how to make these applications.
Yeah, I don't know if Daryl spoke to them after I did. Like I said, we do have Mr. Pittman available. If there's anything that a brief discussion could just lead to a better hearing at the.
I don't know. Daryl, is there something you wanted to add?
Not really. What I sent you is what I received from the applicant. You didn't have.
Say again. I can't hear you. What?
You didn't have any specific questions. You just said that the stuff that you required and asked for.
I'm sorry, I still can't hear you. Try that again, Daryl.
You didn't have any specific questions.
They did not have any questions.
Did not, right.
Okay, so, I mean, unless they submitted a set of drawings that's completely unrelated to what I just described as being like wrong, we should just adjourn this. So I would say let's mark down that we read our notes, but we adjourned the hearing, and I'll give them enough time to do a better job. But this was a really bad submission. So, okay, so
Move on.
just a second, yeah.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay. All right, go
Okay.
ahead.
Item number 22, 59076 BZ, 243 East 59th Street, Manhattan. If you wish to call in at 646-558-8656. Zoom webinar ID number is 946-7511-2161. Passcode is 714839. If you're in the Zoom room, raise your hand. Well, that's for,
I see a raised hand.
sorry.
Yeah, so somebody with last three digits. So if you want to speak, you need to dial *6 if you're the phone number 797. So *6, and that will unmute you.
I don't see Todd.
He came in.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Sorry, there was a little blip when I first joined. I don't know what happened, but
yeah, I didn't see you on the side. Okay. Anyone else with you, Todd?
just me this afternoon.
Okay.
Oh, so there was somebody else who,
Okay. Do you affirm, let me swear you in, do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board questions?
I do affirm.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. So we did listen to the comments in review session, and hopefully can respond either this afternoon or a future submission to any of the issues that were raised. With respect to the original variance, I would just note for the board that we did actually order the archive file. We try and do that for most of our applications. There was actually not a tremendous amount of information in there with respect to the previous grant, but I would note that this application, when it was originally granted, was for a reconstruction of a sign that was already in place, which likely predated the 1961 variance. But what I would note with respect to the finding is, I understand the issues that were raised by the chair, but historically, when a term has been set and it's not mandated by the text of the zoning resolution, it's primarily been with respect to confirming and testing the C finding as opposed to other findings, neighborhood character. And we would set forth that in this particular case that, as was noted, the community board recommended approval of the application. We've received no complaints. And I can affirm that there's been no change to the size of the sign or the lights that are in place. Just briefly with respect to comments by Commissioner Chanda, I would just note that there haven't been any change in the lights per discussion with the property owner, and that with respect to those second floor windows, there's actually lights that are in the plaza that are directly across from those windows. So if there were any light effect on those windows, it would be from the lights that are in the plaza and not the lights that are 40 feet above. But as I said, we haven't received any complaints. There's been no change at all to the structure whatsoever, other than the material of the sign, the subject of the sign has changed.
And what about the catwalk?
As described to me, and I can get more detail if the board needs it, but there actually is like a structure there, like a small structure. It's not to the full extent, I think, of the plan, but described to me is that they can put in a temporary catwalk when they need to change the sign. That's the way it was described to me. But I think you'll see there's like a strip that's underneath on the photos. If you look at the 6th photo, you might see that there's a strip there that's in the place where the catwalk was.
Right. Okay.
But I'm not a catwalk expert, but that's the way it was described to me.
No. All right, that's fair. What was I to say? So you're basically saying that the second floor windows have a harder time from Tramway Plaza than they do from this sign, is what you're saying, right?
Again, yes, because if you were, I don't know if we have any photos. Let me take a look at the photos we submitted. I think photo 5 might be the easy. Oh no, of course there's a van in the way. I'm looking at the Google photos. The ones we submitted, photo 5 is in the way. But actually photo 4, if you look at photo 4, you'll see that there's 1, 2, 3 lights that are right at the level of the second floor that are on the in between the plaza and the sidewalk there. And those lights are actually directly across from those bedroom windows. So again, I'm not a lighting expert, but since there haven't been any changes and since those lights are much closer to the windows, I would guess that those lights that are 40 feet plus above those second story windows would have minimal effect that would be greater than the lights that are directly across from those windows.
Right. Okay, so with respect to that, I think it was Commissioner Shanda who asked about the lumen levels as opposed to going and measuring them. Are you okay with this representation by Mr. Dale?
Yes,
Okay.
I am. Thank
Okay.
you. And I think another thing to point out is that it's almost, even though this property is facing a plaza, technically it's like facing a street in some ways. So
What do you mean by that? It's facing technically it's facing a park according to the zoning.
it's a park, but it's actually in the bed of the 2nd Avenue. So because of the wider thing, and then there's a park there. So yeah, so it's a public thing, the lighting from that. So I'm okay with it. I don't need the lumen count. I actually, thanks for pointing that out. I did overlook the lighting that is there in the plaza. It makes sense. Thanks.
So another question that Commissioner Shanda asked was about the mounting height. Do you know for sure that it's not higher than, it says 50, you know what, it says the resolution isn't clear whether you're measuring to the bottom or the top of the sign. It's just like, so what is the height to the top of the sign?
The height to the top of the sign, it's I believe no higher than, the problem is that if you look at the 2nd Avenue elevation, it's not even. It's 31 feet at the closest. I think I'm trying to orient, but if you look at sheet 2 on the plans, you'll see that it's 31 feet to grade from the bottom of the sign and 51 feet to the top of the sign from grade. It's essentially 5 feet from the top of the building, and that remains consistent.
Okay, all right. So, and the drawings, I didn't open the drawing yet, but maybe others did. the drawing clearly indicates that it's 31 to the bottom and 51 to the top of the sign. So we don't need to modify the drawing to clarify that. Is that
It does
correct?
have that. It also has the measurement 5 feet from the roof of the building.
Okay, good. Okay. So then, any other comments, questions from anybody about the sign? So let's go to the public.
So the application we are currently discussing is 590-76 BZ, 243 East 59th Street, Manhattan. And if you wish to call in, it is 646-558-8656. The Zoom webinar ID number is 946-7511-2161. And the passcode is 714839. And if you're in the Zoom room, please raise your hand. If you have called in, it is *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute.
Correct. So the 5-foot measurement, is that from the top of the parapet or from the roof?
Let me double check. To be honest, I think it's from the top of the roof. Let me double check on the plans. See if we clarify this.
I'm just
Madam Chair,
making
according
notes
to
here
the
in case
plan, it is to the top of the parapet.
Yes.
Parapet, that makes sense, because you can't perceive the roof normally. Okay, all right, good. So nobody called in, as you would expect. Right? We don't have anybody calling in, raising their hands to discuss. So then I don't see any open issues or any reason to submit anything additional, right? Everybody's okay with that? So I'd like to make a motion to close.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Sorry, aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Shetta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta,
Aye.
I don't think I said aye, so aye.
Commissioner, Madam Chair.
Aye. So then, and there's nothing to submit, so Mr. Dale will try to put you on as soon as possible because you don't have to submit anything.
I'm a frequent visitor. Anytime is fine.
I figured. Okay, thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Bye.
Next item is 23 6-04 BZ 7118 to 7124 3rd Avenue, Brooklyn. This is Mr. Becker.
Here. Yes.
Oh, Mr. Becker. Anyone else with you, Mr. Becker?
Nope. That's me.
No architect, no engineer, nobody?
No.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Okay, proceed.
Okay, so I listened to the review session, and in the issue of the community board, we have kept the side clean. We will keep in touch with them. The fire alarm, we will file a fire alarm plan. I've spoken to the representative at New York Sports Club. They were under the impression that they could use the pre-existing, which obviously is not correct. So they will file. It'll take them approximately 60 days to do that. There is no PA permit because there is no certificate of occupancy, so they cannot get a PA without the C of O. With regard, yeah.
Why isn't there a C of O is the ever-ending question.
They did file in 2012. I know it was seemingly rejected for that enlargement that in the side yard for the handicapped accessibility, and that was never approved. So because of that, and it was set forth in the statement, that's what held up, it's been holding up the C of O.
But why hasn't the enlargement been approved?
That a series of different architects who've been involved with the project, that's the only reason I'm aware of that I've been told.
But a series of different architects because you can't get that side yard addition approved? Is it a legal side yard addition?
It is a legal side yard addition. One architect died, one disappeared. We're now on our third architect in this process.
So how is this board supposed to know whether that addition is ever going to be approved, on which the whole PCE depends?
I can get you information from the architect and from the construction person at New York Sports Club who will provide that information for you, and I'll provide it back.
So when was the new architect hired?
The most recent, we had one who was hired when we filed the application in 2017. He literally disappeared. The previous one who had done the previous plan died. So the new architect was hired around 6 months ago.
So has the new architect done any work?
Not at the moment. No, he's waiting for this to work itself through. No, nothing further.
So that architect made no efforts to work on approval of the addition?
No, because they're waiting to see what happens with this application. It would be a whole package.
I don't understand. So it's a little chicken and the eggy type thing.
Correct.
The building is right now has an illegal addition. As far as I can tell, the building could get approval for this elevator and stair independent of the PCE because it services the floors of the building. So why do you need to wait for the BSA to get approval on this addition?
I don't think we need to, but that's what I was told the New York Sports Club was doing. That's
Okay,
like,
so because we really, it's pretty suspicious, all of these years since the last time this application was approved, it's 15 years ago. That addition has never been permitted, approved, nothing. Approved,
it was,
nothing.
I believe it was filed for in 2012, the addition.
Oh, even better. So the last time we saw this was 2005, sorry.
Yeah, 2005.
Grant. So that drawing, so it's 15 years, maybe more than 15 years. It was shown on the 2005 approved drawings, that addition.
Right, and then you reopened and extended in 2008.
I see, but the board's been relying on a structure that doesn't exist to service a PCE that's been operating since, I don't know when. I actually don't know when. So
I'm in a total agreement with you. I will get this cleared up.
So I don't just want to hear comments. I want them, I think Commissioner Shabetta's ideas make sense to me, that because there's no reason why a legal addition shouldn't be approved. If it's legal in terms of lot coverage, floor area, all that stuff, it shouldn't matter what it's associated with. So they should get an approval for this built condition and then come back to us so we know that we're talking about a PCE that's allowed to actually exist and be serviced by this currently illegal addition. It's really cart before horse, or horse before, cart before horse.
I understand, but I would still request that while we file for the fire alarm, and with that time, I'll get you the response to this matter as well.
But what's the response? I want to see it. I want to see the architect who was hired 6 months ago actually do the work to get the addition. Okay. It's basically a no work addition approved. It shouldn't be that hard unless it's not a legal addition, and I'm starting to get suspicious.
I agree.
Okay, so let's just do that. So we're not going to come back here and discuss what's still going on. We're going to come back after the architect has gotten approved plans and a no work permit to legalize that addition, and then we can have a conversation about the extension of the PCE.
Okay. Do you want to go through the other items as well, or no?
Well, we don't need to unless you have questions. I mean, you'll need to respond to them, but if you don't need to go one by one. You can just tell me if you have a question or ask a question.
No, the only thing I do question about the existing versus proposed, the previously approved and the existing are the same areas with the exception of the offices, which I will find out whether they're not part of our application and they may have been discontinued in total.
No, so here we go. I'm looking at the resolution. That's the only place I have data from because the previously approved drawings had no data, right? Just drawings. It says Whereas the proposed PCE will occupy a total of 22,046 square feet of floor area in the building, including 700 square feet on the first floor, 14,786 square feet on the second floor, and 6,560 square feet on the third floor. That's what it says in the resolution. The architect's chart on the architect's drawing says 700 square feet on the previously approved and existing. Okay, that's correct. That matches. But the second floor, it has nothing to do with anything. Second floor says 5,894 square feet. And it was 14,786 square feet in the approval. And it makes no sense to take the offices out because they're accessory to the PCE. So you have to put those back, assuming that the 14,786 is the right number. And then what's even more confusing is the architect says the third floor is 11,519 square feet in previously approved and proposed. The previous approval for the third floor was 6,560 square feet. Where in the world did that 11,519 square feet come from? It's like made out of thin air.
Well, I'm looking at a set of plans from 2007, which is the most recent plan, and I'm not seeing floor area numbers on that.
No.
And, right. So
I'm reading from the resolution.
And the resolution may have been incorrect, is potentially.
So
it's sloppy. I will correct it. We'll give you
okay,
the.
but you can't submit stuff like this, Mr. Becker.
Mhm.
You cannot submit stuff like this. I say this over and over again. I feel like a school marm here. I say this over and over again. You cannot submit stuff where the submission is nonsense.
Okay.
And then say, okay, I'll take care of it. I'm sorry, whatever. You can't do that. It's a waste of our time. It's a waste of your time, and much more expensively, it's a waste of your client's money.
Got it.
So don't do it.
Got
Be
it.
more careful.
Yes.
Okay.
The only those are, I see all your comments about the plans, the size of the building, the districts. Vice Chair Shanda, we do have the hours on the in the statement of facts on page 9, existing and previous, just for reference.
Yeah, there's hours of operation is very late in the statement of facts. There's like a compliance chart. And
right,
it says hours of operation 2005. And then it says currently. So those are the hours. So the current hours are Monday to Thursday, 5:30 to 11 p.m., Friday, 5:30 to 10,
but
Saturday,
you also,
Sunday, 8 to 8.
this also includes an amendment, the modification, which is fully set out on page 9.
Okay, but the chart compares, right?
Right,
It was
the
6.
chart, right, but we do have a specific amendment. And I'll find out about the sound attenuation, but I'm not sure if we have any, but I'll find out. That's
All right, so let's open this up to the public.
This application that we're discussing currently is 6-04BZ 7118 to 7124 3rd Avenue, Brooklyn. If you wish to call in, it is 646-558-8656. Zoom webinar ID number is 946-7511-2161. And the passcode is 714839. If you are in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand. Once you call in, if you wish to speak, dial *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute.
Okay, so because I want to see the addition submitted by the new architect and plans approved, I think we need to give this a lot of time, and I don't know why this wasn't done way back when. Really don't know why. So I think we give it minimum of 6 months.
I think
There's no drawing.
we can get the fire alarm plan will take us 60 to 90 days to file. Potentially, we can do the same time period for the no work permit for the enlargement. I would request a little less than 6 months if possible. a
So
June
you
hearing
think
perhaps?
you think you could get the drawings submitted to DOB approve, reviewing them, et cetera, in 3 months?
Hope springs eternal.
No, I don't want to work on hope because we schedule a hearing and then it's adjourned and then it
Well,
gets pushed off.
I would say that we can certainly get the fire alarm filed within 60 to 90 days.
I don't want to see piecemeal. I don't know what we're looking at here. I
All
don't
right.
know if we even have an entrance to a building allowed. It
We
may
have a
be
late June hearing date then possibly. Please.
Okay, well, I'll look at it. So late
Okay.
June will only be, how many months is that? That's 6, what are we up to? 2, that's only 4 months.
Late
Something.
June, it's June 28th or 29th.
No, we're not gonna set a date, all right?
No, we're not setting a date. I'm just saying late June.
So I'm gonna say late June, early July.
Okay.
Late June, July submission. With approvals for the addition, right? Okay. All right,
Next case,
yeah.
item number 2421-10BZ, 2801 Roebling Avenue, the Bronx. Extension of term.
Still me?
By yourself?
Yep.
Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, or to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Please proceed.
Again, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I attended the review session. We will give a notification to the neighbors as we did last time. This was not requested, but we're happy to provide it. The chair mentioned this is an old application. This application was actually timely filed at the time of the expiration. There was not even a waiver for a late filing. We will provide a lumen spread and new sound readings. I heard all of the comments about the neighbors and from Commissioner Sheda, so we will address those issues. I will amend the statement of facts to include the site, the size of the site, the frontage, the size of the building. The statement of facts was revised in February of 2021 in conjunction with the notice of comments response. And actually the second notice of comments response that I received last week. So the information that was provided in the cover letters was also in the statement of facts. With regard to the landscaping, if you look at the photos submitted with the application, you'll see that the landscaping that is devastated by the snow was actually along the front of the property on, I believe, Roebling, was actually alive and healthy at the time of when the photographs were taken. So we were in compliance with that. I'll get a picture of the additional landscaping that's in the corner, the rear corner for you. The hours of operation, we would submit that, as Commissioner Otley Brown said, that you keep them as they were previously approved. Community board had no issues with them. There were no complaints on that. The open violations, there are 2 of them. One is the ECB violation, which is back to 2004 for operating without a C of O, which we mentioned. And the other one is a construction violation from 2012 when the building was last renovated. I don't know why it wasn't closed out, but it wasn't closed out. But it's definitely was done back in 2012. And I can get you more details. And we do intend to clear it up if the extension is granted. I will add a sign respecting the neighbors and to turn the radio off. I will provide additional trash pickup information. In the sign analysis form, we did provide 3 sets of numbers for the different frontages. I can elaborate on them, what belongs to what, but they are in compliance as shown on that chart. And in terms of a buffer that Commissioner Shibeta asked along the property line, our drive-through is immediately adjacent to the property line, and the curb cut is adjacent on the corner. There really is, other than the fence, there is no room for additional landscaping in that location.
So that was the question. What do you do about, I have this aerial view where I look down at the rear yard of the adjoining residence and their rooftop, their second floor rooftop terrace that has a direct line of sight to basically everything. So what do you do about improving the quality of their lives?
Well, we can't put a fence higher than 6 feet. I believe there is already a tree in that corner. I don't know what else we can do in terms of additional landscaping that would go to a 20-foot height or 15-foot height.
Right. So I don't know what the solution is either. I actually don't know what the solution is, but certainly I know there's no landscaping in that back corner. So I would have to say, because the satellite imagery, which is from now, shows no landscaping in that corner, which was on the drawings, which was required. So I'm at the point where you have to put it in. You can't
Right, but
keep saying it's a condition of approval and never put it in.
so, but it didn't show particularly, I'm looking at the plans. It talks about, it shows small bushes which are below the 6-foot level. Even if we put in a 7 or 8 foot arborvitae, it's still not going to go above that level of, we have a fence back there, it'll be equal to the height of the fence, basically.
But you're arguing now to not put in landscaping.
No, we'll put landscaping. I have no problem putting.
The landscaping has to at the very least comply with the terms of the prior grant. You're not.
I believe there, well, I'll.
No,
check
there
it.
isn't. I mean, unless something happened between the satellite imagery from like a month ago, it's not covered in snow. There's nothing there.
We can put the landscaping, but it's below the, as it would be below the level of the fence is the answer. It's not going to block the neighbor from us.
I know that. You have a requirement to put in landscaping. Put the landscaping in.
That we will do. We can put that, we can put in.
So spring is coming, perfect time to do it. Comply with the terms of the grant, right?
Done.
No more excuses, nothing.
No. We put it in the, we've put it in the front. We've even.
Okay, enough. All right. So what else do we need? Anything else? So you're going to notice the neighbors so we can find out whether it's driving this one neighbor completely crazy. Though Commissioner Sheta sounds like it's not that busy of a site, unfortunately, because you want to be a busy site. So, all right. And you recognize that you can't extend the term of a variance with a special special permit. You need to read the zoning resolution, please, before you submit these materials.
Yes.
Again, yeah, I don't want to hear apologies. I want the submissions to be correct. It's not asking a lot. It isn't. All right, let's go to the
360 perimeter. You wanted photos of the entire lot, but I guess since Commissioner Sheta submitted those, maybe you don't need them.
Well, I don't know what he submitted, so I can't.
Okay.
No. We want photos. We always want photos of the perimeter.
I didn't cover the entire site. I didn't cover the entire site. We need photos for the perimeter, for the entire perimeter.
Okay,
and
so
I didn't cover that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Photos of the perimeter. This is a standard request. What does it look like from the inside of the site, looking at the perimeter, and from the perimeter, looking back at the site so we can see the condition of the building, okay?
Got it.
All right, let's go to the public.
Okay, 21, the case we're discussing is 21-10BZ, 2801 Roebling Avenue, the Bronx. If you want to call in, it's 646-558-8656. The Zoom ID number is 946-7511-2161. Passcode is 714839. When you call in, if you want to raise your hand, it's *9 and *6 to unmute. And if you're in the Zoom room already, please raise your hand, your Zoom hand.
Okay,
Um,
yeah,
Madam Chair, I know you mentioned the landscaping. There was a comment about street trees.
yeah. So where are they? I don't see the ones that are shown in the site plan.
I'll check on that. I know there are street trees, but I'll check.
Okay, so you need photographs to show us that they're present, okay?
Got it.
I only saw one street tree in the satellite imagery on, I think that's Roebling. Okay, so I think what we do is we give you enough time to plant and at the same time to respond properly to the questions with the studies and to notify neighbors. Okay, so planting season basically starts April. So maybe you return in May with the photographs showing all the planting in place, with all of the studies that are required, et cetera, okay?
You
We
want
can-
landscaping plan?
We can plan,
Yes,
we can
landscaping
plant
plan.
in early April. That much I know.
So you're saying,
We
okay,
can have a
so
hearing.
so it means returning May, because if you're planting in April, the submission has to be 3 weeks before the hearing, right? So we're talking a May return.
Okay, early May, we can get it in by earlier, yes.
Okay. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Please, Mr. Becker, I need you to please take more care with your applications. It's shameful what you submit to us,
Well,
really.
the
The beginners don't make mistakes like you make. All right. And you're not
I
a
got it.
beginner. There's no excuse for what you submit to us, none. And I
All
don't
right.
want to hear an excuse, and I don't want to hear I'm sorry ever again from you. All right.
When will I get the May hearing date so I can properly notify the neighbors?
Either the end of this week or Monday, you'll get your assigned date. Okay.
Okey dokey.
Okay, that concludes the public hearing for 2 PM, February 22nd. Madam Chair, do you want to do the other?
So what I want to know is whether the applicants for Willets Point are available for now, because they may not be available, right?
I don't know, Carlo?
And also, I specifically want the owner here. I do not want to do this without the owner present.
Let me contact Mr. Reyes.
All right, but I do not want to do this without the owner present. Absolutely not.
Was it Mr. Reyes or Maria?
No, I don't think she's back yet.
Oh, okay. Did you see the email from Carlo and from Checopalio?
I did.
Okay.
And I'll discuss it because it's not informed.
Okay.
You know, what we could do is take a 10-minute break. Come back or maybe even a 15-minute break, come back at 5 to find out whether we can assemble the relevant people for the Willets Point. How about that?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Mr. Reyes can be ready in approximately 15 minutes.
But I don't want to just talk to Mr. Reyes. I want his client present to hear this.
Yeah, let me confirm. Hold on. Okay, bye.
So what did he say?
Yeah,
Oh.
so he's getting the client and Bowler, and I'm also going to reach out to Chaka Pillane from the community board, who had reached out as well, and I think may want to join.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is come back at 5. If they're able to attend, we'll hold a brief hearing with them attending. Otherwise, we have to put it off till tomorrow, or I don't know what. Okay. We don't have the applicants yet, so everybody can stay and chill.
Do you want me to call Carlo?
Well, you could, but we're waiting for the applicants to come. We only have one person, and I don't know who that, I don't recognize that name, and then
That's the
Mr.
community board.
David Lofrisco.
Oh, no.
I don't know who that is, so.
Could be
we don't
the owner.
have- No, the owner is Mr. Miller, unless there are other owners. So we don't have counsel or the engineer. Maybe Mr. Lofrisco is related to the engineer. I don't know. But I don't want to wait too long, otherwise we just put this on for tomorrow.
Mr. Reyes and Mr. Miller just joined.
Okay. Okay, so then I think we can start. Commissioners, please come back. We need our commissioners. I only see one commissioner.
All the commissioners are here, Madam Chair.
They are? I don't
Yeah.
see them on the list. Oh. Oh, okay. I didn't see their faces. Okay. Great.
So we're live?
We're
Good.
live. So you can.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we are recalling a case from the morning's calendar. The item is item number 6, 24503BZ, 160-11 Willets Point Boulevard, Queens.
Okay, you can swear everybody in, but then I'm going to speak, okay?
Okay, one of them are there?
Yes.
Okay. Let me swear everybody in. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions? Mr. Reyes?
I do.
Is this Mr. Miller here? He's got Mr. Miller's site, but it doesn't look like Mr. Miller. Is this someone else? No, we can't hear you.
*6 to unmute.
No,
is he in Zoom? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're muted. No, he's in Zoom. Oh, he's maybe calling.
Looks like the audio is by telephone. So Mr. Miller, please press *6 on your phone.
How about now?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. All right. And who else in the team? Was there one other person on the team? That's it, Mr.
Yeah,
Ray?
no, the engineer's on.
Yes, this is Dave LaFrisca with Bowler.
Okay, so a different, okay.
Okay, so while you're,
Swear them in, swear them in.
Yeah. Okay. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Proceed, Mr. Reyes. Oh, I'm sorry, wait.
No, don't proceed. So Mr. Miller, were you able to hear the review session this morning?
I was not.
Okay, so it goes like this. I wanted you to be here to hear this, and it's not something I do very often, but I feel very badly that you've gone on so long with this application, and there's a reason for why this has gone on so long, and I need you to hear it now, because this last submission was the last straw for me. And it's the last straw where I was trying to hold my tongue and not say the reason that this has gone on for so many hearings, and it's cost you 5 times what it cost you the last time.
A lot of money.
It cost you 5 times because you're misrepresented or underrepresented by your counsel. And Mr. Ayers, you will not speak. So it goes like this. When the application was originally submitted, I'm a land use lawyer. I used to work in a big land use firm. So I know what it takes, what you do when you look at an application. And when I looked at the application way back at the beginning, the first things out of my mouth, the first words out of my mouth would have been, this is a large site and it's subdivided by a residential district boundary line that's very far away from 25 feet from the property line. So because there's a rule that says automatically, if there's a change in the zoning, you get to extend the district boundary line by 25 feet kind of automatically. And I looked at it and I'm like, this is way more than 25 feet. How in the world could this possibly have a commercial use here? So then, and how could it have, which was the proposal initially, a drive-through in the residence district when this board doesn't have the authority to grant a drive-through in the residence district? Those would have been the first words out of my mouth when I got the application. I posed that question very early on in the application, and your counsel didn't answer the question. And so as we go through the hearing and we're studying all of these issues that are raised by the community board and the traffic concerns and all of that, and it's not to say that we were thinking that you were a bad operator. No, on the contrary, we simply heard and saw images and saw, in fact, the pileup of traffic and saw that there was an issue and that there was this change in the approach, right? So how do we make the change in the approach work? I posed the issue of how can you do this in a residence district, and your counsel never answered the question. And so when I'm looking through my notes much later, there's still never answered the question. So we answered the question. We, the Board of Standards and Appeals, not your land use council. We started digging around saying, how in the world could this happen? And we found out that back in the day, there had been a special permit approved that moved the district boundary line over by 25 feet, leaving that remainder area that's landscape mostly in the art district. So what that did was it allowed you to do what you had done, have the drive-through in the in that extension, but no further than that extension. So then we said at the hearing, you're not allowed to do what you've been proposing over all this time. And the response from your counsel was, oh, you know, not our fault. The BSA discovered it, arcane behavior at the BSA essentially. And I'm just guessing sent you a bill. And so I didn't want to bring that up because it's not normally where I go, where there's, let's just say, underrepresentation by counsel. But the last straw was this one. So we went back to the original proposal to see how that would work. And the question was ongoing. How do we make sure that we separate the drive-through, which must be in the commercial district, from the pass-by lane, which can be in the residence district? That part's allowed because you had this existing non-conforming use, okay? And we kept talking about it. And we talked about the idea of the separation with bollards and curb cuts and all of that. And the representation from your engineer, and they're engineers, so I want to underscore, engineers are not zoning specialists. They're engineers. The zoning specialists are the land use lawyers. That's their job to know zoning. And so the proposal by the engineer was to put a curb cut that wasn't wide enough and was not in really a good spot. So I said, you really need 2 curb cuts here, or you need a wider curb cut. And the response was, we're not allowed to have 2 curb cuts because this section in the zoning regulations prohibits 2 curb cuts from being closer together than 18 feet. And at that hearing, I said, what section in the zoning resolution does that? And they cited a section, and that was the end of that. And I didn't have time while we were at the hearing to look it up. And I expected this submission, which is what I asked them to do, to justify that statement. So now I'm going to show so we never got a response to justifying the statement. Instead, what was submitted was them holding to the position that a section in the zoning resolution prohibits them from having wider than a 29-foot curb cut and not being allowed to have another one closer than 18 feet, which means that the submission that we saw has a curb cut that doesn't line up with your drive-through, and so therefore really only serves the pass-by lane, and it would mean that cars would have to drive on the sidewalk. And so I went crazy, and this is off the, behind the scenes, I'm going crazy. Why am I seeing this? And so I do the research. Kurt, can you show the share screen if that works? Okay, so this is an image from Google Street View of the current conditions of the drive-through, of both the pass-by and the drive-through. You see a really, really wide curb cut that I'm guessing that could be a 40-foot wide curb cut because the curb's been dropped all the way through. It's not a legal curb cut, but it drops all the way through from basically the edge of your building all the way over to that planter, right? And that kind of works in order to get the cars up because it continues in front of both access routes. Can you scroll down to the next image? This image. This is what was submitted to us last week in response to lots and lots of behind the scenes questions from me and from our project manager about improving their submission. They submit this drawing that shows what is not labeled here. Apparently it's a 29-foot wide curb cut, and it doesn't line up with your drive-through lane. So illegally, it would require cars to drive onto the sidewalk and over the curb, in fact, and going through your drive-through. And my own counsel picked this problem up. So it's not even that we needed to have, architects, planners, or anything review it. My own lawyer picks this up and says, how can this possibly work? So then I look at the drawings well before I need to look at the drawings. Normally, we're not reviewing until last week. So I'm looking at the drawings before that. And I say, how could this possibly work? And why is the curb cut so small? And so the answer to why the curb cut was so small is, again, the zoning says so. Which section in the zoning resolution says so? They insist. Can you scroll up to the next one, Kurt? They insist, this is from the zoning resolution, section 3658. They say section 3658 says the curb cut cannot be closer to another curb cut than 18 feet, which this part I didn't take out, include, and it can only be 29 feet wide or something like that. But that was, and they're citing to what's known as section C of 3658. Wait, don't go down. I just didn't pull out the whole section of the zoning resolution. Okay. So, but the thing is, land use lawyers are supposed to know how to read the zoning resolution. And when you go to a section, you start at the beginning and it says A. So you start with A, you don't start with C. And A is applicability. So to what locations does this regulation apply? And you're in a C2 zoning district, right? C2? So yes, all right, C2, that good so far. But then to what does this apply? It says developments with accessory open parking. A development is defined in the zoning resolution as a new building. You're not a new building. Then the next one, it says 2, enlargements of buildings. An enlargement is defined in the zoning resolution as the addition of floor area. You're not enlarging your building. It's the same building, right?
Yep.
Okay, and the third one, 3, existing buildings with new accessory open parking. You're not providing new accessory open parking. It's the same open parking you had before. In fact, you're probably reducing it a little bit because of your reconfiguration. So you're not 1, you're not 2, and you're not 3. Therefore, this section that has this regulation about distance between curb cuts does not apply to you. So I'm confused. So I go on to DOB's website. Now you can scroll up to the next one. Department of Buildings website. And Department of Buildings website has this handy interactive or link active site called curb cuts. Every imaginable section in the regulations that has to do with curb cuts is right there with an active link. I clicked on every link and I found nothing in the zoning resolution that had to do with your site. And what I found instead was what does have to do with your site, the building code. So scroll up just a little more to get 406.7. Okay, so this is the building code, 406.7.8, that says curb cuts. The aggregate length of curb cuts shall not exceed 60% of any street frontage 100 feet or less in length. You're 160 feet, actually, so you're much longer than that. No single curb cut shall exceed 30 feet, not 29 feet. And there shall be not more than 2 curb cuts on any street frontage 100 feet or less in length. But you're more, so you could actually have 3 curb cuts if there was room to put 3 curb cuts, okay? So that's the first fact. The next part of this fact is, if we just go down to the number 4, sorry. No, this one, where is it? No curb cut. Yeah, number 3, no curb cut shall commence within 8 feet of a side lot line, except that on corner lots, And the where's the one that says 5 feet away? Oh yeah, sorry, it's the end of number 1. No single curb cut shall exceed 30 feet in length, and there shall be not more than 2 curb cuts on any street frontage or less in length. The minimum distance between 2 curb cuts shall be 5 feet. That's the building code. And then the next one is the Department of Transportation's own set of rules, which I found on the link that was up there. You can scroll a little more. And that one says the identical information. It says with maximum 30 feet, including splays. And then if you look down at the bottom of the chart, adjacent driveways with a lot, 5 feet. So the rule that applies to you is 30-foot wide curb cuts, 5 feet apart. Okay? So if that worked, I don't know that it works because maybe 30 feet's too wide, but 30 feet's not wide enough for you to get up to both of your drives. You do need to split this up in order to comply with the rules. So one curb cut could be right in front of your pass by lane, and another curb cut 5 feet away could be right in front of your drive-through, and that would comply with building code and DOT requirements, and the zoning resolution does not apply. So we actively reached out to your lawyers about this, and the response was no response. They didn't submit revised drawings that showed anything. They stood by their position that the zoning resolution applies. Scroll down a little more. And because I was so fed up with this application that we're doing all the work of your lawyers, I provided this drawing to them that shows them exactly how to do it. All the blue, I wrote that. The little arrows, I wrote that. Explain this, account for this, scroll up to the next one. And then this was a drawing that Commissioner Sheta showed at the last hearing, where he goes on to a screen view, and shows them how to improve the layout of the site with bollards, and they didn't do that either. So they didn't even do what he showed them. And I took a screenshot of his screen view, and they didn't even do that. I don't know if there's another image. Go up one more. Is there another one? No, that's it. So the reason that I wanted you to hear this is because the direction to your team is to make the corrections that are shown on the baby step color by number drawings that we gave them, and to do it fast so that we can approve your application and move along. And this will comply with the building code and the Department of Transportation and the whole lines that we were given the last time about how they need a variance for the curb cut and all of that. I don't know what that was from. It was made up as they went along. I'm furious that this is happening. You should be furious as their client, and they should not be charging you for all of this extra work. I'm sorry, I had to say it. It's the responsibility of professionals.
The only thing I would ask is when we've done this, we do a lot of time. I spent a lot of time with the members of the community board. We wanted a single curb cut, and then we talked about putting bollards in, just because, along with the other methods of taking orders, it'll allow, and the speaker is going to be so far back now that you're going to be, I think, one car. If you're the last car, maybe you're not taking an order, but everyone else, once you take an order, you're not leaving the drive-through line. But what it also allows us.
No. But so I know that they wanted one large curb cut. The law is a 30-foot wide curb cut. That's all you can do. And we can't waive that.
I can't keep that curb cut the way it is now?
It's an illegal curb cut. The curb has been eased, and it's an illegal curb cut. So to have a legal curb cut, we cannot approve illegal curb cuts on our drawings.
So it's just got to be, it has to be 2 curb cuts and then some kind of ballard system is what we're talking about.
So 2 curb cuts, not separate. The curb cuts don't need to be separated by anything except 5 feet, because that's the DOT and the Department of Buildings law. But so you can have, for argument's sake, the width of that drive-through. Hold on, I can't see that. Hold on a second.
I'm concerned about the making the turn.
Making which turn? No, I'm not talking about that. So we have the curb cut. Oh, thanks, Kurt. Yeah. Close in more. Great. Okay. So you have a 21'6" drive-in, right? Your current curb cut is not centered on the drive-in. So if you move the curb, and it's supposed to be by law, it's supposed to be centered on the driveway. So if you move that curb cut over and you make it something that works for that, and then you're required by the law to have a 5-foot separation between that curb cut and the other one, then you can have one that's centered right on, you see the little green line? It could be there. like centered right on the green line so that it's easy for a car to pull in on a little bit on that diagonal and not have to cut across. What's showing right now is they're going to cut across the sidewalk and the curb, right? So you could have two curb cuts like that. Yeah, I can't really, well, actually, Kurt, can you arrow it? So, yeah. Right, so, but you're not allowed.
Here, I gotta be honest, if the engineer says it works, it works. I'm just so disappointed in this process and the amount of money it's cost my business, my family, and everything else involved, and the amount of time. I've literally been beaten down, and I'm a positive guy. I'm a very positive guy. I have employees that have worked with me for 25 years because I'm a good employer in the neighborhood and I do the right thing.
Right.
And this process reduces my faith in trying to do the right thing to make my establishment stands out in the neighborhood because it is kept clean, it is kept tidy, it's run by a good family.
But so,
And
Mr. Miller, I know
so
that.
at the end of the rope, whatever they can do, let's do it and let's be done with it.
Okay, but that's what I'm trying to say is it's not the process. It's your representation that dragged this out and made this so impossible. That's what I want you to know. And that a person can draw anything, it doesn't mean it works. That clearly doesn't work because what I'm looking at right here, because it means the cars have to drive on sidewalks, which is not allowed. So we need the drawings to be changed to be allowed. And I just want to say that oftentimes what happens with those 5-foot spaces, they get beaten down. That's probably what happened over the history of that curb that you've got. So I don't know, we can't speak for how drivers drive, right? But in terms of getting a permit for the curb cut, it must be 5 foot apart from the other one. And you have the maximum of 30 feet, which won't be enough to get into both of these lanes. It's just not enough. So, okay, so that's the first thing. There were other changes that your lawyer was directed to make and they didn't make them. It's all on the color by numbers right here. And so you need to direct your consultants to make the changes, okay? I don't know how to make it any clearer. It's like holding their hands and bringing them to the site and, the horse to water and all of that. And I don't know how to make them drink. I just don't know how.
Okay. My engineer's on the phone.
Yeah, so he's a different engineer than we've been talking to in the past. So I don't know if you have any questions, but I don't know how to make it any clearer than that. There's a note that says what to do. And in terms of the bollards, Kirk, can you go to the one with the bollards that Nazar showed? Yeah. So this one was, we showed that the bollards, for one, I wanted the spacing between the bollards, and we talked about like the escape hatch, right? So that's what this drawing is showing, that after you get past the menu ordering place, there's an escape. You see where the red is? That's the last spot, and then where there's a bollard, and after that you escape through, which is what we discussed, but it's not what they showed us on the drawings. Their drawings don't show what we agreed to.
Okay.
Okay. So, okay. All right. So I hope that the team doesn't have any questions because I don't know how to make this any clearer.
Okay.
Okay. So,
all right. I'm trying very hard to stay positive and to, I'm a single store guy. This is costing me a lot more. We're in a pandemic, and it's cost me college education. It's amazing.
I have to say, you should not be charged for any more work.
That's great.
You should not.
Okay.
If they
So what do we
charge,
have to do?
not pay. I'm serious. I can't even believe what I'm asking them to do over and over again. Yeah, Mr. Appelian wanted to speak as a member of the public, so go ahead.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I hear everything you're saying, and I think this can work with one curb cut of 29 feet. One of the problems, we discussed this last time, is that right now, the angle of the first two cars that are going into this drive-through is an obtuse angle to the property line. And it actually isn't a drive-through at that point. It's an open parking area. The drive-through really begins at the second, actually the third car that goes in. And what we're doing is we're creating a false channel over there.
Now, Mr. Appelian, I have to interrupt you. For one, you're not the designer. With due respect, you're part of the community board. They cannot use the residential portion of the property to enter the drive-through. It's not permitted.
I know it's not permitted, but it's not the drive-through, Madam Chair. You're making it the drive-through. It exists right now, and it's not the drive-through. The drive-through doesn't begin until the third car. I take exception. And what's happening is we can make this work with 29 feet, which is actually 3 lanes of traffic. And if 3 lanes of traffic are now perpendicular to the position of the drive-through or the property line, this could work. And
I'm sorry, Mr. Appelian, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I don't get paid at all for this. And I've come on many of times, and I would like to finish the testimony.
But we've talked about this before.
And we agreed on one drive-through.
No, I was told, I was misled by their counsel and their engineer that there was a section in the zoning resolution that limited the location of curb cuts and limited the width. And it's not a true statement. They misled us and it's not true. And so I have to go by what the code says. And the code doesn't say what they relied on to make their argument. And so I'm sorry, Mr. Appelian, we have spent so much time on this application. I'm tearing my hair. I can't barter with you.
I'm not looking to barter. I don't like that term, and I take offense to the term that it's barter.
I'm sorry. I'm really tired.
No,
I'm exhausted,
Madam
and
Chair,
I can't
this
do
isn't
this.
fair.
Mr. Appelian, your testimony, I've heard enough testimony from you. I'm sorry.
That's not fair. You're out of order.
Mr. Appelian, I am muting you because how dare you talk to me like that at a hearing? You, sir, are out of order, and I have muted you, and that's the end of your testimony. All right. So I am going to say, give you 2 weeks to submit, and we'll try to put you on for another decision because I know you can't do this overnight.
So are we closing, Madam Chair? Because we reopened this.
Yeah, we're closing.
Okay. So motion to close?
Aye.
Chair Pro Murtasari, aye.
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta?
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta?
Aye.
Okay, so it's closed. Submission date.
It'll be something like 3 weeks to submit. Okay.
Okay, and we'll let them know.
Back
what the
to
date
our
is.
decision date, yes. All right.
Okay.
Please.
Okay, are we done?
Yes, so done.
Okay, this concludes the public hearing for February 22nd, 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.